Jackson has played Dolly down in the bottom, which is absolutely the perfect play. It shuts off so much of the play at the bottom. The only issue with this play, of course, is that it does leave open the possibility of an IEST ending bingo into the T. So it is still available for that, but that's going to be about the extent. So yeah, it actually doesn't block the T very much. It does, of course, destroy the L. It does also leave open for Kenneth. He does have a bingo that fits through the T after Dolly even, and it's going to be pretty vital, I think, for him to find this right now. And it looks like he does have it found because he has it lined up on his rack and has started putting tiles on the board. And yes, intertie. Intertie has gone down. So now it's Kenneth with the tempo lead, and Jackson's going to have to make something happen. Dolly was a valiant attempt at a block, but it didn't quite block enough, which is disappointing because Jackson has played a really nice game. The book it notwithstanding. Kenneth has drawn the J and the X, which is probably going to be a pretty difficult situation for Jackson because if Kenneth can keep scoring, it's going to be difficult. Jackson plays Yod to tie the score, so he is down very literally one tempo. There are 5 tiles in the bag right now. Kenneth is on turn, holding the J and the X. There's no Jor in TWL, so at least that opportunity doesn't avail itself to him. Jackson's going to have to be careful with the Q, and he has a lot of consonants going with the Q, so it's going to be necessary to find a place, and it's not. It can be easy. It can be easy to sort of get railroaded by time in the game, time in terms of the number of tiles remaining, and end up with a difficult power tile at the end if you don't move them in due course. This also applies to Kenneth, of course, holding the J and the X. But those are generally a little bit easier to deal with than the Q. Something like Jaw, I think, is going to be a really solid play for Kenneth. It's going to score super well. It's going to move the J. It doesn't give very much back, and it leaves him a couple vowels to play with the X next turn. That's probably a really serious serious play for Kenneth here that puts him in a really good position, and that is in fact what he plays. So, and Jackson, there are 3 tiles in the bag, and it just looks really bad. And it is, as I said before, it was a close game. The board wasn't really that dynamic, and it really did come down to the disposition of the second blank as far as who was going to pull this out. I think Jackson is in a very, very dire position, sadly, because he's played quite well. Yeah, coif is columns only, which is pretty confusing since it's a pretty normal word. That would be easily that would be a really sort of solid play, solid response for Jackson. It would keep the score even. He'd still be, of course, down the tempo going into the end game, which puts him as a huge underdog. And his leave after coif would be really still really difficult, but at least that would be a solid cue play. Jackson is using a bunch of time on this move. He, as you recall, he played the first part of the game very quickly. He still has just under 15 minutes on his clock. Kind of has 5 minutes remaining, so he's not. Doesn't seem, with only 3 tiles in the bag right now, doesn't seem to be in any danger of going over time. It's going to require some accurate play from Kenneth. There are certainly ways that a worst case scenario can happen and Kenneth can blow this, but he's in a really commanding position, and especially with the flexibility and the X on his rack that he has. Even it doesn't need to be too much if Jackson's not a threat to bingo, something like ticks down at 14A is a perfectly fine candidate to score. It ticks here. 14A is a perfectly good candidate to score with the X. If you're scoring 30 points on top of already having this, 39-point lead. I mean, I don't see Jackson finding a way to, pick up 50 points over, 3 turns and go out first and catch Kenneth with stuff. It's going to be as difficult as it is for Jackson to go out first, given that he has the Q and the V and some clunky vowels and not good balance. And his rack is just a complete disaster area and is being evacuated as the floodwaters come in from the Atlantic. Yeah, Jackson doesn't have a very good cue play, and he's taking a lot of time here because, he's not a threat to eat the cue because there are 2 eyes available. So, we're not looking at, he's got the 2 eyes. Available to, this is not aligned at all. He's got the 2 eyes available to play the cue. So he's not a threat to eat the Q right now, but then what's going to happen? The V, you're still stuck with VU, LL, all these things. It's really difficult when you've played a solid game like Jackson's played. You had the lead for most of the game. Your opponent gets the second blank, hits an easy bingo, and now you're just barely behind, but you're also drawing dead. Would Kenneth try putting the S on book it? Asks the chat. That would be an amazing turn of events. Yeah, playing a phony like that, because I'm sure Jackson would take Bookets off. He would be foolish not to at least attempt to challenge, even if he is still under the impression it's good. Because if he has any doubt that it's good, um, he needs to challenge, and winning a turn. Jackson pretty much needs to win a turn here uh, in order to have a shot. If you look at the pool unseen to Jackson, it's a beautiful tile pool, and the X and a lot of flexibility and a couple mice. It's it's difficult. There's even unseen to Jackson is a sexist, which would go down there for like 70. Um, it's it's pretty dire. Jackson's still pondering how unfair a life is that put him in this position. Jackson played Book It. Kenneth held it for quite a while, but eventually accepted the play. Question from the chat on who played Book It. That was Jackson, likely confusing it with Look It. I believe Look It takes an S in TWL, but does not, if I recall, it does not take an S in Collins. The inflections of Look It as a verb were deemed by the Westbrook Dictionary Committee to be laugh out loud stupid.
Is that the technical term?
That was the technical term, I believe. It looks like Jackson did make a play. He kept the Q, played off the V. So yeah, Jackson played Vol, which empties on the number, and he's going to let Kenneth play his out in 2. Jackson has pulled at least balance out of the bag. And Kenneth, who is down under 2 minutes on his clock, is pondering. The board is now gone, and I don't know why. Board is now back. Still don't know why. And
people in the chat, if they reload their boards, they should come back.
Kenneth has laid Vexed down on the board, has not hit his clock yet. He's down to 30 seconds. And now he's made the play officially. Vexed. It, yeah, I mean, Kenneth has gonna have outplays, I assume. He has said over in the corner here. He has said over here. So Kenneth has multiple outplays from here, and it's not going to be possible for Jackson to catch him on score. Um, so the game is essentially finished. What I would like to see is QINS down at H1 making buckets, and that's still that might win the game, except it would probably come off the board. Kenneth taking a victory sip from his Dunkin' Donuts culotta while Jackson ponders his cue play. That's the sort of color commentary you can come to expect from us. Chris Leip and Randy Goldberg commenting from St. Louis on the Scrabble tournament from Albany, New York, where the Albany tournament used to be at the what was the hotel? The Marriott by the airport, and there was a Dunkin' Donuts right across the street, and it was wonderful. So Jackson plays SUQ down in the corner. It scores well. It takes out the higher scoring of Kenneth's outplays. It comes up just short. Oh, nope. He has his outplay also that scores quite well. So the game has now ended, and Kenneth wins 4-4-6 to 3-9-8. Yeah, Juarez and SUQ probably would have been a better spot by a bit. Though that might have left a situation where it was where Kenneth could have not immediately played out, and because he had his own eye. Yeah, so we have a final score: 4-4-6 for Kenneth Rubin, 3-9-8 for Jackson Smiley. It was a difficult game for Jackson. His opponent certainly caught a couple breaks with both the blanks, and especially having a bingo that fit through that tee after it was obscured with play of Dolly. Jackson played pretty much everything by the book it, and just managed to not quite come up with enough. And yeah, some clunky racks down the stretch really seemed to hurt. Next round, we're going to have Evans Clinchy, who was leading the tournament at lunchtime today, against Jason Ubika. So we'll have that CSW matchup for you, probably starting in about 5 or 10 minutes. Hopefully we'll have a bit of a chat with the players from this game before we get on with the next. Evans Clinchy was leading at 12-2 at the lunch break on day 3 in Albany. Adam Logan has won his game immediately after lunch and is now sitting at 12-3 after beating Jason Ubika. Bradley Whitmarsh is still playing Tim Weiss. He was 11-3 on the lunch break. Stefan Rao is still playing Brent Weil. He was 10-4. And Jennifer Lee and Evans Clinchy are currently playing. Jennifer is at 10-4, and Evans, of course, is leading the pack at 12-2. Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hey, good afternoon, Chris. Vince here with Jackson and Ken, and I think we're going to use this coach right here. That's okay. Okay, thanks. Set right there. Let's see, we have a very high-tech setup for getting the camera established while I go off and get the next game going. How's that?
All right, great. You're on. You guys are on the air.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the game?
Yeah. It was an interesting game. It was really close. It looked like it was kind of heartbreaking for Jackson because he had the tempo lead for most of the way, and then about halfway through, I made the comment that whoever ends up with the second blank is likely to win this, and that's exactly how it played out.
That's what I told Jackson. Yeah. I mean, the letters just fell into place for me, but if he draws that blank, he probably wins. That's how it felt to me. If you were playing.
Yeah, I felt that as well. I was trying to close the board with Belfry and stuff, hoping that I could not draw the blank and still win.
Yeah.
I could win if I draw the blank.
Yeah, I think if Dolly does happen to block his bingo through the tee, you're able to hold on because there really wasn't much else going on the board. Zero cut down, destroyed the top part of the board. If you had, a play with the V there or something that was more blocky, then I think you might have been able to pull it out. But it was kind of bad luck. Things fell the way they did.
And with intertie fitting, once I played that, I felt like I'm probably going to win this game.
Yeah.
Pretty well.
Hey,
there wasn't much to do, I don't think.
I took the liberty of grabbing these guys' score sheets in case they want to post-mortem.
Did we play okay? Okay. That was nice.
You did have Pinora on the opening rack. That was the only. That was the only 7 when you played Parag.
Embarrassing way to start, I guess.
I don't know if that's coming through. That's just the neatest gosh darn score sheet I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Deserved.
Wait, that's Jack.
Absolutely.
That's insane. That's very nice.
Really, I've never heard that before.
Ignore. Was that the only one?
That was the only one.
Okay.
Yeah. Aside from that, and aside from Book It, which isn't a thing, everything else was a pretty standard, well played game.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was telling Jackson also, I had a feeling Book It wasn't good. It was interesting for me. I mean, that was probably the most interesting points of the game because I had Wah, I think WW, and then I had a big lead, and it just made sense not to risk it. But as I told him, if he had put the S on it at the end of the game, I would have challenged it, especially because I had a feeling I thought he was thinking Brookite or something like that. It just didn't sound
Look It.
Or Look It. Yeah.
But I was hoping that you could put the S on it in the end game because I wasn't 100% either.
Would you have done that?
I was trying to bait you to put the S on it.
And you would have challenged me.
And I would have challenged you.
Okay.
That was my game plan.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end when you had that QV rack, losing the turn to an S on Book It was about the only reasonable way you had of coming back there.
Yeah, I would have had to mess up.
Yep.
But no, it was. Yeah, I think it was pretty standard. I felt good about the rest of those plays. Scavenger, first I put coverage on my rack. I was happy that I had the patience to find Scavenger, which I think is fairly a better play.
Yeah.
Less volatile play. And then Jackson Anurins has been fine. K-Knight's a good way to start. But yeah, I was punished appropriately for not seeing Big Nora. So I think it's only fitting I think right after that through the open Rob. But otherwise, I think it's just the way the letters were, handed out. And I think the end game was probably fine for both of us. Although,
you seemed to do fine.
Yeah.
You were the one.
No, I'm used to being low on time.
And we noticed that Jackson was playing. You were playing the first few moves instantly. You were a third of the way through the game, and you still had 22 minutes.
Yeah, he's trying. He told me after he was trying to fast play me. I had the feeling.
Yeah, because he started out really slowly. So I'm like, I don't know if he's a slow player, so I tried to play fast. Also, my racks are really easy, like K-Knights and Anurins. There's no question.
We had never played before, so we have no idea. So I'm used to playing low on time. I like to take my time, and I'm used to finishing close to the end. So I have to okay with that. But it was smart to think that.
There's a big difference from my game with Joey Malik when I was the opposite. It took 10-15 minutes in my first open players.
He plays fast too.
Yeah. So I think the only other thing that we had discussions about is when you played Vault and also when you played WA, there was the opportunity to just drop the W's around the O in Parag. There was NA in the double letter and then TE in the W double letter. So just dropping the W's in that spot.
Where I played Yod.
Okay.
Yeah, where Yod eventually went down, the W's would have gone there too.
I didn't see that. I think I probably would have played that.
Yeah.
Playing vault with leaving 2 W's is very strange. The board looked okay, and also even if I had a bingo type rack, I think the board was closed enough that there was a good chance I wouldn't be able to play it. So I thought, let me just score with vault and score later, and then I still, and then down the road I'll figure it out. But that's kind of a weird thing to leave 2 W's on a play.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit interesting because a vault went down and scored with the U, and there were a few different places on the board to score with the W's, like the A in Anurins was open next to the pink square, and then there was the spot on the G column where Yod went down. So it's not like you're giving up a score with the W's; you're just delaying it by a turn by playing vault first.
For me, keeping the W and the U would have been faster. I had to get rid of either keep the W's or get rid of the U or get rid of both W's. And I just did not like WU on my rack. But in that, I probably still wrong. Probably was not the right play, but didn't seem as crazy just with that board setup to 2 W's.
Yep.
I'll look it over later.
So yeah,